Good morning and welcome to the March 2025 Illinois Soybean Growers webinar series. This morning, we're going to have CEO and founder of Low Mutech, Brian Tully, join us, and he's going to talk about how new soybean uses are driving progress in his company. And so with that, Brian, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Corey.
So you should be able to start sharing.
All right. Well, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity and look forward to sharing this information with you. Lomutech started, I am the president of the company. We are based in Grand Mound, Iowa, which is just north of Davenport in eastern Iowa. Have been doing work within this field since 2011, when we started looking at a replacement for a planter box, lubricant and singulation product. And so, whenever we started looking at what we could do for developing those things, we wanted to develop a product that gave us the same lubricity and singulation that we saw with 80/20 talc graphite blends. We chose soybeans because we had tried other products. We had tried corn stover. We had tried other things. There's a reason they put corn cobs in outhouses years ago, because it attracts moisture. And we saw that whenever we started doing our original studies. Plus, the availability of soy in our area, the soy protein and then the soy lecithin, and we'll talk about that in just a bit, was huge. We knew from the outset that being able to use something that had an amino acid base, like our soy protein does, was going to be critical. We had done some seed treatments in the past where we had added some additional amino acids to see a response with the plant. And so we patented a biocomplex inclusion carrier called Dust and worked on developing that in the planter box. Our second patent that we also worked on gave us the ability to deliver beneficial organisms and technology to the seed as well. And that's what we call coat. And that's our two different products. Our coat product is actually marketed by Newfields Ag as a carrier, is the name of it. And we'll walk through those as well. The soy protein side of it, we started out looking at two very distinct products. The dry flowable market, in other words, like we said, we wanted to be able to develop a product that would give us the singulation and lubricity that we had seen with talc and graphite. The first time we tested the product, it actually performed really well, but there was no lecithin to it. And so the planter itself, the first day worked great. But in many trials, if you've been involved with those research trials, you have to go back to the drawing board. And so the next day when we went back out there to try and put some more crops in and play with some corn and beans, and this was just over here in eastern Iowa, the planter plates were almost stuck together. And so we took them apart, cleaned them, and realized that we had not done anything for the lubricity side. And so, there's a reason that talc graphite products were invented. There's a reason that whenever you buy a planter, that they say that you need to use a lubricity aid or a singulation product as well. And so we went back to the drawing board, and we're very fortunate to work with some people that had worked with soy protein for about 45 years. And they got to talk to us about, well, just add lecithin to it. And number one, they assumed I knew what the heck lecithin was. So I went and found it, and it was on the back of my Snickers candy bar wrapper. That's what helps that candy bar slide out of that package so that I can enjoy the Snickers candy bar. And so it helps with lubricity and coating of materials as well. So we went ahead and patented the use of soy protein in a planter box to be able to not only deliver the lubricity and singulation piece, but also the ability to include other materials with it. So the bio-inclusion piece is that we're talking about looking at including in active biology, live biology, as well as biotech, sporulated and non-sporulated biology, and we'll get into that in just a bit. But then also wanting to be able to include in micronutrients, because we knew that if we could do something in that rhizosphere around the seed, that we could see some benefit from that. We started in our studies in 2011 and 12, just trying things here on the farm and around us to see, can we have a positive impact season long with our amino acids being applied? And we did see that. So we got our first patent issued in 2019 for that ability in the planter box. And that led to the development of our coating product in 2021, the patent to deliver the same thing, using the similar products without the lecithin included, but using the amino acids to help translocate the material into the leaf and into the plant better. And so we've seen the delivery of the amino acids, or using the amino acids to deliver the active ingredient, makes it more efficient. So whenever that amino acid hits the top of the leaf, it's actually brought in through the plant leaf surface faster. And so you see the benefit of that. That all of that research was done through the grants we received from the United Soybean Board, using your checkoff dollars to get that process through. We started out at the national level with the soybean board rather than going to the individual states, because we saw this as an issue that would allow us to attract a lot of different states, a lot of different activity around, and wanted to start at a national level rather than going to the state of Illinois and saying, hey, we have a project that we would like for you to look at. We've done some work with the state of Illinois, and we've seen some good results with that as well. And the fact that we have focused on continuing to grow, and we started that process in back in 2016 with the United Soybean Board to do wear studies. One of the things that we also really focused on is the fact that a lot of our companies that we deal with in ag are now becoming foreign owned. And so the microplastic free concept we've had since the inception of our product and our company, and it's critical because we don't want to continue to build up residue in the soil that could adversely affect water absorption or make water runoff more prevalent. Both those things have been proven by university studies that have been paid for through grants with the soybean board as well as corn growers. The singulation and meter wear study that we did at K-State showed that we can actually have the same singulation and less wear using our soy-based product than you'll see with the talc and graphite products. We looked for and could not find studies to be able to compare what talc and graphite did to the planter, because we had always looked at it and it was all we ever knew that we could use. And so we started the process of replacing them. The agronomic benefits were obviously there with the amino acids and seeing the plant response. And so we kept things moving as well. Like I said earlier, we started in 2011 with the idea of, can we make something? And this started because we were actually loading grain off the farm, helping farmers, and then we would get involved with filling the planter. And so we always got the fun job of putting the talc and graphite in. So we would be eating graphite sandwiches for lunch. And so we were tired of it. And so we started looking at, is there something that can be out there? And some of you may have used a product that was designed to answer that question, because we don't want to lose neonics as a seed treatment because they're efficient and they work. And Bayer came out with a product called Fluenciate, and it worked very well. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It helped reduce the off-target movement of seed treatment. And what I mean by off-target movement is, any of you that are currently using talc and graphite and you fire your planter up and you see that black and gray cloud of material go blowing out of the back of the planter, that's off-target movement of seed treatment. And so the talc and graphite will actually shear off some of that seed treatment, and it goes into the environment and can contribute to some of the things that we've seen in the environment. And so we wanted to reduce that. So we started looking at the study of, is there something out there that we can do? And that led us into multiple variations, like I talked about, not being able to make the planter roll. How do we do that? And how do we continue to move those things forward? And in 2016, after those many trials and failures and successes, we were able to sit down with USB, and they helped fund our initial research at K-State, looking at a proof of concept. Will it work like we're seeing it work? Can we have replicated data to be able to do that? And that was our first venture into the USB and into the grant world, and we've stayed in that world up until now. We currently have a project going on looking at some of the inclusions that we'll talk about here as we continue to go forward. And we rolled out more and more things as we went forward, looking at the Commodity Classic, where we get a chance to visit with those of you that attend. You know that it's a very high level discussions that happen there, that people aren't jumping in the aisle to try to drag you into their booth to talk about new things. You get a chance to talk about technologies. And what we've noticed since 2017 when we started is there's been a lot of biological companies come and go that have some good ideas, and they might know where the product works, but many of them don't. They've seen some results, and we wanted to be able to have that were very sporadic in their results, and we wanted to have products that were very consistent. And as we did that, we started then going back to the university trial side. And you'll see that we have on here the University of Missouri, the Ohio State University, University of Tennessee, University of Maryland, back out to Kansas State. We did this over a broad breadth of universities, and we did it over multiple crops. We did wheat, we did cotton, we did some soybeans down south in Tennessee. We did soybeans in Maryland. All these things looking at it because we have the positive benefits that we can do. And we received our first patent in 2019. And then we kept doing research and studies looking at what we could do, continuing on the coat study as far as what can we do to apply the technology. How many times can we touch that plant with the amino acids, and do we see a plant response from it? And everything that we have done so far, we see a positive plant response that puts more gross revenue or net revenue in your pocket, so that as you invest money, you see those things go. And we had the chance to partner with several people early on. We knew that our product, in about 28 days, we're completely gone from the soil because the native biology will actually consume it. And so we looked for partners, and we were able to find one of those in New Leaf Symbiotics out of St. Louis that has a pink methylotrope that helps corn and beans. And now they've got a CRW product to help with corn rootworm for those of you that are in areas that have that effect. And we like that because that gave us a season-long approach to this, and we could answer those things. And we're continuing to build more and more of these products as we go forward. Our concept is, how do we put things into place technology-wise so you don't have to buy a new piece of equipment? We want to be able to bring technology to you in a very easy fashion, where so we looked at the processes that we were already doing on the farm and said, what can we do to affect this? What can we do to have a positive response on these things as we move forward? And we've identified these areas that we can do it in, obviously in the planter box, so that we can do those things as well. This was something that we opened up because talc and graphite will desiccate or kill the biology because it's a low moisture environment. Talc and graphite is, and so it pulls the moisture that the biology needs to survive away from the biology, and then it dies off. Our product doesn't do that. We're able to maintain that in there, where you'll see the talc and graphite products have a 3 to 7 day type window whenever you put them together. We have 6 months, 180 days, 120 days, 180 days that we're really comfortable with. And we have shelf life. After you blend us together, whenever you blend our products together, we have up to a 2 year shelf life. So if you buy it and you carry it over for the next year, you still have viability for the next year. So once again, building in multiple ways to be able to get those things done. But then in visiting with our farmers that we work with and our dealers, they came back and said, we need a couple other things. So that got our coat product coming to us. So can we apply and help maintain seed treatment on the seed? What we had seen with the current seed treatments is the lack of ability as that plant as the seed dries, that seed treatment doesn't shrink with it. Many of you have picked up a soybean and seed that's been treated, and you can shake it and hear the soybean inside. Well, that M&M effect is what we're able to change, because with our coat technology, it actually looks like a bird's nest. And so as the seed dries, which we actually reduce the drying down of seed as well, but as it does dry, our coating shrinks with it. So you see less of those treatment come off in the bottom of the bag. So when you dump the bags out, you still got the ability to continue moving those forward. And then, of course, whenever we were looking at, we treat, and a lot of times we treat heavy rates of this. How do we dry that down? Well, we built a product now that's got more amino acids in it with our dust that still gives us that shiny effect. We still like to look into that bag and see a bright shiny seed. We can do that with a soy protein based drying agent that we have as well. One thing too, just point number 4. The reason I put this on here is that some of the technology, some of the biologics that are available don't like heat or don't like being exposed to oxygen that much. And so what we've done is that we've actually developed, with the ability to apply the lecithin, the ability to include technology into the lecithin piece. So if you have a biology that's very sensitive to temperatures, we have the ability to deliver that once again and give a benefit to that as well. why we manage what we do. Obviously, it's a hydrolyzed isolated soy protein. And we use that for the static control. The lecithin helps with the lubricity of the planter. And we're at extremely low use rate. When you look at our soy protein products, we take 14 grams per 50 pounds of seed. And that's a normal seed size. You get a little larger seed, you might need a little more. If you get a little smaller seed, you might need a little less. But overall, about a half ounce or 14 grams is all you need. We came to that not by some just guessing. We actually went out there and looked and said, what do we need to actually make the planter? In the talc and graphite world, it's more of a moron approach, right? Just if I want more to happen, I just put more on. Well, we don't chase that technology here. We try to make sure that if we're going to do a job, that we want it to be accurate and active every time we do it and be consistent. And so with the products that we've developed with our planter box side, we have the ability to use an extremely low use rate, and we can do the inclusions at the same rate. And as you'll see in just a little bit, we have the ability to consistently deliver that product. Our wettable powder, like I said earlier, the action that we have on being able to keep the seed treatments on, and then to include active ingredients in with that as well. We're continuing to develop ways to make it more efficient as we go through. The microplastic free side of this, once again, doesn't put anything in there that would adversely affect the ability of the material to move through the soil. As you can see, there is a difference. Ours are on the far right-hand side of your screen. You're looking at our dust soy protein particle. It's a little ball bearing effect. We manufacture it to be look this way when it's done. And we don't want that to be. You can see the talc and the talc graphite blend is in the middle, and then the bare fluency agent is on the side. Bare fluency is a microplastic product. And so it really, one of the things that it's not still prevalent in the market is that it really liked itself. And so it would stick to it, or whenever the temperatures would get up or humidities would get up, or you'd put it into a situation where you needed lubricity, it really didn't provide that. So you saw some benefits, the lack of benefit with that. But remember, it was designed to keep seed treatments on the seed, and it did that very well. The talc piece, when you look at the shards that you have there, remember it's mined from the soil, same with graphite, and it's laid in layers. And talc is moving out of the market. There's a lot of people that have been selling talc and graphite products that are now moving back to a graphite only product with some other kind of inclusion to help with the static electricity control. We've tried a lot of those products early on. We tried to see if there's something that we could do. Can you micronize a micronutrient? Can you try to fluidize, or can you encapsulate? And remember, whenever you start making some of those changes to it, that you have to remember that singulation and lubricity matters, especially when you get into 36 and 48 and bigger row planters that are trying to travel at 7 to 10 to 12 miles an hour. You have very little leeway and very little ability to make a change in that. Whenever I'm pushing seed 45 feet out or 40 feet out from the center fill, the more powder I put in, I change the flow of the seed out to the row units. And so we see issues with that as well. And so our low use rate actually fits into that. And we're able to be using a lot of these high speed planters that are going out as well. Our technology, once again, we talked about the lack of wear on the planter parts. We sent some machines out that had precision row units, and it had John Deere's row units on them, and we did 10,000 acre tests with those out at Kansas State. And what you're seeing in the pictures there is what you see a difference in the lack of wear on the row units that we had using dust versus the ones using talc and graphite. Talc and graphite is what we have known forever, and it's what's available to us, and so that's what we've always used. We're saying that there's better out there, and we've proven that through all the different studies that we've been able to do. We've got white papers written up on these by the universities. And the other thing I will tell you is that we don't win every test. Mother Nature doesn't allow you to win everything that you try. There are things and situations that you just don't win. Our goal is a greater than 80% win rate, and we can achieve that with the things that we have that we can put out there. But our biggest goal is to give you a 2 to 3x ROI on these things, because we're coming to it from the farmer viewpoint of, okay, if I'm going to do this, it needs to pay me back to get those things done. And so we've continued to work through that. Whenever we start looking to include products, our amino acids that are included in our base dust and coat. This comes with our product from the very beginning. This was inherent with the soy protein isolate that we picked up. There's several things I want you to look at on here. We have things that will help with cold stress, with any of your precursors to any of the chlorophyll situation, the chelating agents, things to help with the protein synthesizers to help the plants get up and going. The also helping with the abiotic stresses. So whenever you do go into the plant, into the ground early, these things are inherent with what our product does for us. Talc and graphite doesn't offer that. We're using something that you're growing as a source to help you grow better crops. And so because of that, we help with the chlorophyll startup of the plant. And now remember, we're gone in 28 days. So the key with this, as you start looking through these products, is to make sure that you're going to feed that crop. We started our company looking at, is there a way that we can change what we're currently doing that enhances our business model so that we can make more net revenue per acre? I've got farm ground that we used to farm that never did have 200 bushel potential. It was 180 bushel top corn. And we were at a 65, 70 bushel top soybean. And if we got close to that number, we were really, really happy. We needed to be realistic about where we were going to spend our money and what we were going to do with that so that we could make sure that we were maximizing our revenue on every acre. Having these crops in here, we see a yield benefit from just switching from talc and graphite to dust. So when you do a split planter trial and on your farm, I would recommend every year you try something different, whatever that may be. Don't try too many different things. You can't keep track of what all you tried, but try something different on your farm every year because technology is changing quickly on ways to get those things done. We don't think that microbes answer every question. We think it needs to be part of what you're doing and it needs to be part of your discussion, especially as we go into the years like this year where every dollar matters. Every dollar does count so that we make sure that we spend our money in the right place. Because as we get to looking at the different types of microbes that are out there that are available to us, you want to use ones that are effective in the area where you place them. We've been able to work with a lot of different companies because of our research dollars that we've gotten from the United Soybean Board. We've been able to look at if we place a biologic that is a endophytic, in other words, inside the plant, and then we come back with something that is we can spray over the top. Do we see stacking effect? In other words, do we see increase in plant health? Do we see stay green? Do we see the ability to continue to grow these things? And that's what we're looking at, and that's what we're continuing to research to make sure we continue to grow those out. A lot of what we've done is by being able to include these biologies into our planter box and now into our seed coating and our foliar products, we're seeing increased benefit and increased return of net revenue to the grower. So you see more benefit as you move forward. A lot of this research has been done Eastern Iowa, across the upper Midwest. You saw the universities that we worked with all the way over to the East Coast because we got asked to go there because of what's going on in their watershed. A lot of what we're dealing with in Iowa the same way. How can we be more efficient about what we're doing by what we're putting down to make sure that we don't have to over apply or apply more than we need in the wrong time? So as we start looking at products that we build, how do we answer the questions that we're looking at better as we move forward? Been asked a lot. What have you tried? What have you put into dust? What have you worked on in dust? And we've not put this whole list in one dust particle. That's kind of crazy to try that. But this is what we've looked at all the way to Brady rhizobia. We're still experimenting with that, trying to figure out. That's a very fickle biological product, as you know, and many of you have been using biologies on your farms for years. So if you've been doing anything with any kind of corn rootworm product or any kind of BT products, anything like that, um, you've been using biology. So it's not a new, biology is not a new concept for you. You've already had it on there. What we're doing is there a way that we can deliver some that are crop specific and allow the plant to be able to take in the nutrients it needs more efficient and not have to use up energy to be able to process that material to get it in so that it can then produce more sugar, more yield, more bushels, whatever it may be you're after. Even on grasses, being able to get more tons or being able to get more hay off of that or better hay. We can change that as well. And you'll see a lot of these products in here that we've been able to work with, and we bring them in and we're able to stack them together in the planter box and then allow you then to go and wait and see what's the crop look like when it comes up? What's the rain forecast look like? And then you can come back and do your next application pass because we help get it established better. We see, like we saw it at Ohio State and the University of Tennessee, as well as Missouri, that we see better root development by inclusion of this because we're feeding the rhizosphere right around the seed. And so because of that, whenever we encapsulate the material, in this picture you're seeing that our soy product actually encapsulates the inclusion material and gives us the ability to deliver this even down to the very small sizes of it. This is what it looks like before it goes into the spray jar to become that particle that I showed you that dust looks like. But we can encapsulate this stuff and bring it, and that allows us to have it so that even if you get to the farm and you're still wanting to deliver product to the seed, you still see the benefit of this as it goes through. What you're looking at on there is on the seed is that we actually dumped the material on top of the Pro Box, dumped the Pro Box into the J&M tender, and then ran it through the tender out into the top of the Pro Box and took the picture on the right. All of those little specks on there are our dust material delivering product to the seed. And remember, whenever we start talking about either singulation or lubricity, we don't need a lot of material there to make that happen. And in the biological world, you don't need a lot of inclusion because if you get to looking at your seed treatments you're currently using, it's a very low inclusion rate of the ounces per hundredweight of seed. And so that's what we're delivering. And whenever we start looking at the studies that we've done, a normal liquid seed treatment is what's on your left. And you're looking at about 1,000 live cells per seed. By doing a planter box application, we see that at being 10 times. And this is a tested study, a 10-time thing that we see with that. So there's more active cells per. And remember, it's because whenever we put it into that particle, we allow it to get in basically a stasis point. So it doesn't continue to deteriorate. And in liquid, it's still going through lives. And so whenever we used our research dollars from USB to say, why is this stuff working this way? Well, we got to looking at the fact that we're running at about a 3 to 5% moisture in our particle. That's enough to keep it alive, but it's not enough to wake it up. But when you put it into the soil, the microbes like our amino acid mix. And so then they come, well, they bring more energy. And you'll actually see around the seed, whenever it's planted, the temperature kind of goes up too. So that gets back to our cold germ that we're able to help with that. And so we see a more uniform stand. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're delivering so much of that material there that the biology around the seed and the rhizosphere around the seed is energized and it's ready to go. And so one of the questions we had about this, so that's great, right, Brian? That's good that you can apply it to the seed. Can you keep it on there? So we did. So we've done this study. We repeat it. This is actually from a study that we did in 2021, but looking at from 20% planted to 80% planted. Do you keep the live cells on the seed? And this happens to be with a mixed partner that we have with our friends at New Leaf, looking at what does that look like? In other words, do you blow away and we don't see the actual active ingredient be on the seed like it's supposed to? We did this by driving the planter, then putting a pan underneath and collecting seed, driving the planter, doing the same thing, and finishing out the field doing the same thing. And here's the results you see that there's no statistical difference with it whenever you go from planted to unplanted. Because whenever we start looking at why are we doing what we're doing, we want to make sure that you can continue to see the benefit of that and deliver the technology all the way through. If you're going to make an investment, you want it to work for you every time that you put it in there, and that's what we try to try to do with our 80% win rate and our 2 to 3x ROI. We continue to build those things, and it's because of the research that we've been able to do as we continue forward. And that research led us then to once again working with our New Leaf partners, looking at here are some things that we wanted to address. Corn rootworm. We know that the in-furrow treatments will wash away or will become inactive after a few weeks. We know that the traits are not working near like it used to. Now we have a product that's an endophytic biology that we can deliver in the planter box that doesn't desiccate, that we can have mixed together for up to 120 days before you go to the field. So you literally could be treating it right now and not have to worry about planting that stuff until you get into May or June. And so it gives you some time for that as well. And we see more efficacy. This product is being sold because it's an endophytic piece that's there all season long. So it's taken up into the plant. and you have the ability. So let's say you have an early flush. We in eastern Iowa are blessed. We get northerns, southerns, easterns, whatever the combinations are. We see them all here. And so we will have a late flush of insects come through, and we want to try to control those as best we can. This product is one of those tools that you can put into your toolbox to allow you to see the late seasons. We're seeing below ground activity is, for sure, but we're also seeing it translocate throughout the plant. So you're seeing some additional benefits from it that we look to see a label expansion this next year on because of the studies that we're doing with the EPA. This product is an EPA controlled product. And so we send it out as the active ingredient to be blended on site to be able to mix in with the seed as you get ready to go. And like I said, you can do that up to 120 days in advance. But this all came about because of the studies that we were able to do with the USB funding at the universities that showed these companies that we can continue to show you benefit all season long. Now we're going to go to some of these pictures to be able to show you the differences that we see by delivering. This is all planter box only. This is not a seed treatment. This is not a early foliar application. This is results that happen by a planter box application all season long. So, and we start looking at these materials as we go through, you can just see the differences in the soybean and the developments as you look at them, treated versus untreated. And then whenever you start looking at the thing I want you to notice is obviously the health of the plant, the health of the root system. But when we look at the nodulation side of this, early on nodulation and how healthy and pink those nodules look. And so you see the development of that we're able to continue to enhance that as it goes through. And so then we wanted to look at, do we see a difference when we start looking at and putting dust in with the material and with some other active ingredients. Some of you may know Invita as a nitrogen fixing product. So we put Invita on and then we put dust with it in the planter box. And look at the difference in the size of the stalk, and then look at the density of the roots in that root system of what you're looking at there. More fine root hairs, so more straws to be able to take it up. The people that do the testing with us every year come back and say the really frustrating part about testing your product is we can't get all the dirt off the roots. That's a great problem for us. I would love to hear that every time because that means that the roots are so tightly bound to that they're taking up the nutrients that are available. So you're more efficient at what you're doing. And that's all based on the soy protein, the amino acids that are in that. So you see the benefit of that. Once again, you didn't have to change anything you're doing. You just put this in the planter box. You don't have to eat graphite sandwiches anymore. And you see the benefit of a healthier plant that stays green. This last spring, we had guys talking about combining 16 and a half moisture corn, all right, on a green plant. The plant still had green color to it, but the ear was ready to be harvested. Our soy, we see the fact that we can maintain pods longer because and give the ability for those late season rains to come in because we can help handle the stress better with that as well because you have a bigger root mass under the ground to be able to take those nutrients up. So we continue to move those products through as well. Obviously, our products cleaner, safer in soy, cleaner, safer, greener because of the renewable side that we're using with this. We can look at blending in different biologies, biotechs, or micronutrients that be able to enhance things that are going into the plant. We're able to mix the products in and spray dry them at the same time, like I showed you by encapsulating those things. So you don't have to worry about separating out, right? Or dispersion issues or things that just don't work together. Some of the other products that are on the market, if you don't shake them up just right, you're not going to get a good mix or you don't punch the button like you're supposed to. Everything doesn't fall out. We've eliminated that by having to do it. And we package them so that anybody can participate, whether you're farming 150 acres or 15,000 acres. We have it packaged so that you can participate with that. And we include a little red scoop in there or a little clear scoop, depending on the product, so that you can know, okay, this will treat a unit or 2 units of seed at the same time. We don't want to expose the biology to anything that would be adverse to it because we don't want to decrease the efficacy of it. So as we're doing that, we have a proprietary process that keeps that biology alive longer and gives us the ability to, still maintain the viability of the biology. Like we talked about, being able to stay in effect and not have to be worried about freezing and thawing. We can ship our products, when the temperatures are different compared to your liquid products that are out there. You don't have to add another system to your planter. having sold equipment in the past, I know there's fewer and fewer planters being sold with liquid systems on them. We still like that process. We fit in right along beside the liquid systems that are on planters as well. We marry in very well. Going back to our discussion about why are you doing what you're doing, and then how do we bring in new technologies to increase things that we're looking at and things that we're working on as we move forward, so that we can have no negative impact on planter function or seed singulation as we increase these things as we go through. So we have the ability to continue doing those things. One of the biggest success stories for us so far has been our second patent. Our planter box product has been a tremendous success, and we continue to grow with that, and we continue to gain acres with it, and companies that are utilizing our product. And I'll share some of those with you in just a bit. But one of the biggest things that we stumbled across here a few years ago was we were trying to use dust as a liquid, and it first thing I did is I engineered it not to take water, right? I didn't want it to be affected by moisture. Well, we know that it is just like talc and graphite, that high humid days, if you got way too much product in there, you'll see some of the same issues you see with talc and graphite. We can't fix those things, but we can manage through them because we know what to do and help you through those situations as well. But we then went to developing coat. And the coat product allows us to use a true soy protein that can deliver the amino acids that we need. And once again, every time that we bring amino acids to the plant, we enhance the functions of the plant. We make things more stable. We help the plant to metabolize nutrients better and to take products in better. So when we include it into our spray products for our foliar, or we put it into a seed treatment, either one, we maintain what you've paid for on the seed treatment to stay on the seed, so it's there better. You're not planting naked seeds. You're planting seeds that have their seed treatment on them. But also, when you go to do a foliar application, you have that inclusion and you're ready to go forward with it as well. So we're still working on that. One of the last things I want to finish up with here is just the microplastics in the soil, like we've talked about. The studies have been done at K-State, as well as Purdue and Penn State. And then the other things is that the microplastic thing is not critical unless you like to eat fish or like to fish, and it doesn't sink; it floats right where the fish run, and so you end up with some issues with that as well. And so we want to make sure we can stay away from that. Obviously, the talc and graphite issues that we know about through what's going on with Johnson and Johnson pulling out of the talc market, we don't want to be involved with that. We want to make sure that we can stay away from that, and that's why you're starting to see some members in the ag world that have been selling a talc graphite product are now moving away from the talc component and looking for other things to do that. We're a really good alternative, so if somebody would like to talk to us about developing some new things, let us know. We're more than happy to. Our research partners, like we talked about, these came about because of our soybean funded products and processes that we've been doing. It's worked really well. The process works because you get a chance to not only do on farm trials, but you get a chance to do the replicated stuff at the university level. So you can do the verification of what we've seen in the field. So you see different inclusions and different ways to get that done. And so we continue moving into those as well. Some of our key partners that we have worked with since the inception of our Desk Plus products, New Leaf Symbiotics I've talked about, AMVAC, that we're actually making a product for them. New Life Biosciences, we make a product for those guys as well. Yield Master Solutions, we make a product for them. Transagra, we make a product for those guys as well, using our dust to deliver their biologic. We don't make biologics. I decided not to get into that market because, like I said earlier, from 2017, we watched a lot of biological companies come and go. We wanted to focus on being the carrier, to be the tool that got the technology to the seed and then to the furrow the most efficient. And we've developed that. In our opinion, we now have the best bioinclusion carrier technology on the market. Whether you do it through the planter box or you do it through a foliar application, we can do that as well. The other people we worked with, Dakota Bio, Dairy Farmers of America. So any of you that are dairymen out there, we're working with DFA. We have Canadian distribution, and we also have distribution in the Southern Hemisphere in Australia, Tasmania, New Zealand. Been really, really fun to learn about the different ways that they farm pulse crops in Canada. and then about how they do stuff in the southern hemisphere, particularly on cotton. We spent a lot of time on cotton and wheat down there as well. And then we worked with Helier and with Sargon on some microalgae type products that we really enjoy working with too. So as we come to a close, we are cleaner, safer, and we are American soy. We've spent our the first I guess 14, 15 years of our existence here developing new products. It's been a success, and we've been able to grow into this. We're on 7 to 10 million acres with our dust alone, and then you go into the dust plus products, and we see those markets growing every day. So our partners that we're working with are seeing tremendous results and benefits from the inclusions, and we've enjoyed our time working with the soybean board on the United Soybean Board side, as well as participating with our different levels of materials at the state level too. So working with Illinois soy as well as Iowa soy in the past. So thank you again for the time. Thank you, Corey. Thanks for letting us talk about the success we've had in using soy and the way that we've been able to work into this market.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. And if you give me a second here, I am going to share my screen.
Yep. Let me get out of
And
this.
yeah, and I would just like to remind everyone that today was brought to you by Illinois Soybean Growers. If you're not a grower member, you can use the QR code on the screen to join today. And I would really appreciate and encourage that if you like the content you heard during this webinar. Additionally, there will be a Q&A, and we have several questions already in the Q&A session. I encourage you to go ahead and put any questions you have in the Q&A, and Brian will get to them. Before we move on, there were CCA credits for this webinar, and you can use the QR code to get those credits, or you can email Ashley Berry if the app is not working on your phone, which I know sometimes that can be an issue. So before we get going, I do want to introduce we have a guest with us today, Todd Main, who is our market development director at Illinois Soybean Association. And I would love to just kind of kick this off with Todd, if you wanted to share how Illinois Soybean is working with groups like Low Mutech and to engage this market space and support these kind of efforts.
Sure. Thanks, Corey. And thanks, Brian, for, again, a really impressive presentation on the work that you guys have been doing. It's really inspiring for people like me. And so we are excited to learn more about that. Illinois Soy is very involved in thinking about innovation. And I think we spend a lot of time supporting work like what Brian's doing on the production side, but we also spend quite a bit of time thinking about how do we build demand for soy as an innovative product beyond its current uses. And that's sort of what I spend a little bit of my time thinking about. Last year, at about this time, we launched a project called the Soy Innovation Center within Illinois Soy. And what that is set up to do is to support the research and the commercialization of new innovative uses for soy. And so when you think about it, the soybean is really kind of an amazing product because you can use it as a replacement for almost anything that has a petroleum base as a feedstock, and you can use soy for it. And you can also use the meal as a protein, and you can use the hull as a cellulose substitute. And so we are actively engaged in exploring all of these different facets. And what I'd like to talk a little bit about today is a project that we're launching in April, which is called the Springboard Challenge. And we are in association with the 12 public universities in Illinois going to launch a research challenge around 5 specific areas. So in the area of bioplastics, in the area of biolubricants, in the area of biotextiles, biopolymers, and then PFAS substitutes. And we're going to challenge students and researchers to develop innovative proposals, and then we're going to fund the research to develop those into products that can be commercialized and brought to the marketplace. And we really think that there are lots of opportunities to build demand in the future around soy and help support the great work that that our farmers do, producing right now. So let me stop there because I know we've got a lot of questions and answers.
No, I appreciate that, Todd. And I will say that if folks are interested in that springboard event, if you are part of the Soybean Association contact list, you should be getting information, or people can probably reach out to you directly to learn a little bit more. But with that, we do have a lot of questions in the Q&A. So Brian, I hope you're excited to answer some questions as I am to ask them.
Always,
Uh,
always, always.
Yeah, so there's a pretty broad range of questions here, so I'm just going to go top to bottom.
Yep.
First question, one member asked, can you explain how being a farmer-owned company influences Low Mutech's product development and customer service? I think that's an interesting question.
Yeah, we like I said when we started, we look at these things going, what can we do in our current system that we're using on the farm? Rather than having to, I got so tired of going to meetings and they said after you buy this $1,500 attachment, you can now use our new product. And so we wanted to look at our existing systems on the farm for planting and say, can we do something to enhance that? And we knew from our research side that what can we do um, to show the benefit of the amino acids and can amino we started out asking the very first question is that okay, so now we got this to work, does it actually work, do we see a benefit from it? And so I think having the farmer hat on, looking at okay, so we came up with an answer, but is that the best answer that we can come up with? And so we stay on that side of it. We question ourselves a lot to make sure that when we're developing products that it's actually something that's going to fit into a system, so that if I'm looking at at the opportunities and the products that are available and I choose that on this farm I want to have a seed treatment, I want to have a planter box, and I want to have a foliar product come into that, because this thing, the more I put the gravy to it, man, it just gives me more return every time I do that. But I got another farm, like I was talking about earlier, that won't do that. And so what's the most efficient way I can get the crop in the ground? And I think that mentality helps us as we sit looking at new product opportunities. We get in my office here today, I've got a 6-foot table that is covered with products people have sent me saying, "Oh, you need to try this product with your dust. It'll work great." Well, that's not really the way it works. And so, because we have a pretty good smell test on things that are just not designing well, and I think that comes from the farm side as well.
No, that's great. And I think you kind of answered the second question, which was how do your products integrate with the current farming and equipment? I love how you said you looked at the system and tried to find things that fit in the system. So
Yep.
great,
Yep.
great. And I appreciate the efficiency of answering two questions at the same time.
I didn't even know it. That's good.
After you knew you wanted to create this product, what were the primary challenges you faced to turn that idea into a successful business? So I just want to add some context here. I think in most of the Midwest, but definitely in Illinois, there are a lot of farmers that have multiple businesses, whether it's a trucking business, some kind of startup like you did, or just other things, because we have a lot of people where farming is 100% of their, or like 90% of their time, but only 50% of their business and stuff like that. And so
Yep.
love to just hear that kind of advice. What would, maybe just add a caveat there of what advice would you give guys who are thinking about innovating?
The biggest challenge we had was that we started out by trying to eliminate something that nobody had ever told you was a problem. Everybody just commented on the fact they hated using talc and graphite. So our biggest thing was to start talking about and educating people on why they use what they use. So why do I use graphite only in a Kinsey planter, or why do I use talc and graphite at a certain rate in a case versus a John Deere, or in an Agco planter, whatever it may be? and looking at those things. And so we had to go through the education process. We started that ourselves. I started when it was just me going and looking at why do we use talc and graphite? And if you ask people that sell planters, you'll get about 32 different answers about why, right? Nobody knows for sure. It just knows that we got to use it. It's in the manual that you got to use something for the lubricity. And I want to cover that too in just a bit. But whenever you start looking at it, look at answering a question that is, for us, it was just something that I was tired of wearing at home. I've got 3 daughters and I didn't want to wear that stuff home to them. So how do I answer that question? And I stayed with it until we came up with an answer. The other tougher thing is go ahead and ask your neighbors if they're having the same issue. As farmers, we do a really good job of fixing our own problems, but talking to our neighbors about if they have the similar type problem or if they've seen something about that, we don't see that cooperation happening near as much as it should when it comes to these situations. Because a lot of times, well, they're going to get a leg up on me and it'll be a competition thing, and they're going to take acres from me. And I know that happens. But I also know that whenever we can raise that boat, whenever we're looking at year like we're looking at now, of trying to be as efficient as we can and figure out ways to grow a better crop that's got increasing protein levels, which we know are affecting us on the soybean side, increasing our corn grinding out, all those types of things that we need to do as farmers. We want to be able to address that. And so as you start going through the process, I was on a college campus yesterday talking to an entrepreneur class, and I told them that it's great to have a passion about what you're passionate about, but make sure that your passion is something that's actually pointed toward answering a question that needs to be answered. Because a lot of times we can spend time on these things and think this is the biggest thing ever. And the first time you talk to a neighbor about it or your spouse or whatever it may be, they look at you sideways like, yeah, that's an issue that we have like 3 times in a decade. We don't really have to worry about that. And so you want to make sure you're looking at those as well. And then there's a lot of really innovative people in our states that have tried things. And I will tell you that I was amazed whenever we started looking at developing dust as a planter box, that there wasn't somebody that had already done it. That because to us or to me, whenever I first started this, it was like, well, if it works, why don't we start using this? And a lot of it was because we had always used this. Dad used it, granddad used it. We just settled with talc and graphite. And so start the process and realize that it's going to have to be an education about whatever you're doing. And we just stayed with it because we had a passion for it and wanted to be successful.
No, I love that, and I love how you connected some thoughts there. So the next question we got was, and this is from people thinking about checkoff programs. How did working with the checkoff program help make this idea a success? And I know USB funded quite a bit of what you did,
Yep.
and I know you're also part of our Sustainably Soy
Yep.
program. I'd love to
Correct.
hear about both of those if
Yep.
you had time.
What's been really good for us is learning the grant process is that it is a refund program, not a pay up front program. So we go through and we prioritize where those dollars are going to go. For us, we as a company, we spend over $1 million a year on research and development. That part of that over and above that is the reimbursements that we see from the USB. It's been really good because early on in 2016 and 2017, the United Soybean Board members opened up doors to us to the universities that we wouldn't have been able to get into before. And so they said, "Hey, I know somebody that is doing this, that's interested in this. This will be a little different look at it, but why don't you go talk to them?" Ended up down at the University of at Louisville, visiting with a professor that was using soy hulls to make graphite. And so he and I had about a half a day conversation about the pluses and minuses of soy hulls using graphite. And then that led us into looking at the sustainable soy part with Illinois soy. And we like that piece of it because we are using U.S. made soy. We make sure that that's U.S. made soy going through our product. And we do that by using companies in Illinois actually to process the materials for us so that we can have it to make the next rounds of product. It's been really nice to be able to talk about that side of it, both the USB as well as the sustainable soy part of it, whenever we're talking with people to partner with, that we are truly sticking behind our cleaner, safer soy messaging and our cleaner, safer, greener messaging, that it matters to us where the products come from, how we do it, and then how you move into it. The thing I'll tell you about the grant process is that it's not for the meek and timid. You need to know what you're trying to do. You need to have a clear definition of what your goals are, because as farmers, we look at this going, you know what, I'm not going to write you a check if you can't prove to me that what you're going to do is going to provide a benefit back to me as a group, me as the farmers in general, every time that we go out and do that. And like I said earlier, I'd love to be 100%. We're not. We make mistakes. We don't mix the right things together, or we don't apply them correctly, or we don't put them where they should be. Like I said in the presentation, we've learned there's some products that are better on seed versus in the planter box versus foliar. So you need to know that as well. And that's what the USB process has helped us do, is refine that messaging around that, and having the sustainability side has been a huge key for us.
I appreciate that answer, and that that partnership with the checkoff program, both at the state and national level, is something that we always like to hear positive feedback about.
Yep.
So one question we did have, that this just came in, but I'm gonna ask it now. You are always looking ahead and innovating. Over the years, you've had to answer a lot of questions through research trials. The question was, what's next? What questions are you working on answering now?
So I want to know, if we start stacking technology, whatever that technology is, are we chasing the same bushel? In other words, if we do a seed treatment process and we see 3 bushel on soy or 3 bushel on corn, and then we do a planter box side and we see 3 bushel, and then we do a foliar and we see 3 bushel, are we going to see 9 bushel, or are we going to see 3 bushel? And so the next innovation for us is, as we start looking at genetics and start looking at the soy traits and the soybean itself, we know that we need to increase proteins. We know that we need to have a product that gives us increased yield of whatever you're trying to grow that for, as far as the quality of the grain. We know that we can produce better quality grain using our products because of the efficiency that the plant goes through. There's less stresses than you have with. And so our quality of corn, beans, wheat, cotton, peanuts, sugar beets, whatever it may be, goes up by our delivery of the technology. And that's going to become more and more critical as we go forward into these new USDA programs and stuff that we're seeing, quantity versus quality, and wanting to make sure that your quality continues to go up so that we can get that all the way back down to the grower, and the farmer can participate in that. And so as we start looking at ways to do that, our next innovation is, okay, so if you plant this hybrid and it falls in this family, these are the biologics and these are the micronutrients that need to be applied at these stages so that you can have the best results on this farm with this particular hybrid. That's something that we're looking at, that we're seeing some differences by seed company, corn and beans both, that some respond differently to different applications. And so we want to know, is there something in there that does make a difference? And we're agnostic. We're not a seed company, right? So we're looking at just seeing what happens when we apply these things. But we do know that technology matters. We do know that how it's delivered, when it's delivered, and where it's delivered. So it's the 3 R's, right? Right product, right place, right time. Same thing continues as we move into this. And so we're continuing to look for ways to innovate into more efficient applications of the technologies, whatever those technologies.
Great. Brian, I really love that answer. Another question, it just came up. How do you apply this product? So this is really technical, so maybe you can give a quick answer before we go back
Yep.
to some of these deeper questions. How do you
Yep.
apply this product to a 100 bushel hopper, sorry, on an air seeder to get a good coating? So that sounds like a great technical answer that you could
Yep.
provide.
I will tell you that it is the simplest way for us that we've designed it, is that we package our materials for corn in particular to be in 50 unit boxes or 50 unit bags. And so if you get your seed, your corn seed in pro boxes, you literally just open our bag up and sift it over the top like you're putting seasoning on your steak, and you sift it over the top, and then you transfer that pro box one time. Either you put it into the seed tender and then take it into the planter, or you go from Pro Box to Pro Box, and then you can let it set. Like we talked earlier, you have the ability up to 180 days for it to be sitting on there and not see any detriment. But if you do that, like I showed you in the picture of going through that J&M tender, where we put it on top of the Pro Box, put it into that J&M tender, and then transfer it back out to the Pro Box again, that mixing effect that you see in there gives you the coverage that you need. That's the most efficient way that we've seen to do it. And it's one of those things that it gives us something to do on those rainy days when we're stuck inside the shed and we don't have anything that we need to break again, right? So we're able to work through that. And that's the most efficient. Our soybean products are packaged in 40 unit. And so once again, 40 unit Pro boxes, same thing, sift it over the top, transfer it one time, put it back into that same Pro box so everything's labeled like it should be, or put it into your tender and get ready to go to the field, and that mixing effect will do it again. We've engineered it. 10 to 15% of that product should act just like graphite and go straight to the bottom of the planter and lubricate that. You know, we still want you to pre-lube that planter a little bit, but that's the most efficient way to get the product applied.
Awesome, Brian. I really appreciate that answer. So this is a really specific question as well. How does dust technology compare to something like pizzazz? I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yep. So dust was not designed to be a finishing agent. Pizzazz is designed to be a finishing agent to give you some of the drying effect. We have a product called Dryfecta. It was in one of the slides, and I did not touch on it, but it is a drying agent, and so it's got the soy protein, and then it's got titanium and mica in it, so you can see a drying agent. Dust is, and just like talc and graphite is not supposed to be a drying agent, it wasn't designed that way. You can end up with actually flaking some of the materials off. But we've designed a product that will do that and will give you the drying side of it, and then not adversely affect the biology inclusion that you would have if you put dust into the planter box. And so there's ways to address that. Once again, the most critical piece for us is how do we get the technology to the seed, to the furrow, and then increase yield all the way through without adversely affecting what we're putting in for the technology carrier.
Great. And everyone, I know we're at 11 o'clock, but we have a few more questions. So we'll try to get through everyone's questions. If you have any last minute, please feel free to put them in that Q&A. The next question, Brian, how does dust perform when humidity is high? Is an air seeder required to get even coverage of this product? And does it work with gravity systems? So I know you kind of touched on this already,
Yep.
but
No, that's fine. Yep. No, and the issue that we had, so in 2018, whenever I went nationwide with the product, I did not include I'm looking for my visual aid and I don't have it. I did not include a little red scoop in the bag when it went out, or in our product when it went out. And because of that, we had folks that were using the amount of talc and graphite, using dust in the same amount that had been using talc and graphite. And in those situations, like I talked about with seed size too, you just don't need as much of our product because we've engineered it to stick to the seed and not blow out of the planter. And so an over application of our product is where the reason we talk usage rate once again is I don't want to be overutilizing our product. Our product is sold in 14-pound pails. That 14-pound pail retails for $130. But that 14-pound pail will do 1,100 acres of corn, 450 acres of beans, right? And so you've got the ability to stretch that out over, and so that puts your corn acre at about 11, 12 cents, your bean acre at about 25 cents. And so you've got the ability to put just a straight dust product in there and see a positive benefit. As you start building the inclusions, obviously, depending on what you want to do, you can have that, but you don't need an air seeder. We work in finger meters, we work in John Deere meters, we work in seed belts, SI seed belts, we work in all those things. We work in guys that are seeding waterways down and want to, they get irritated when they open the lid and that the seeds are sticking to the lid when they open them up. We can help eliminate the static electricity in that as well. So you don't have to have a high dollar planter to be able to get it done. We work in white planters too, even though you white guys say you don't need anything in there. If you put us in there, you will see better germination. You will see better emergence. And so those things work very efficient.
all right, thank you, Brian. So I'm just gonna do one last question. What is the best way for a farmer to voice his or her concerns or ideas about needed products on the farm. So I think that really kind of just comes back to your original why
Yep.
you created the company. But what are your thoughts there?
The biggest thing is find there if you get a chance to work with companies that want to know about how things are actually working on your farm. We spend a lot of time talking to growers, about what's working and what's not working. A lot of it is because, like I said, when I started, I didn't give a lot of rate guidance on there, so I got to know a lot of my farmers personally because I traveled to their farms a lot to try to help them get stuff done. But we've learned a lot about that, and one of the things that's critical for our salespeople in the field, our business development managers, is they spend a lot of time with their dealers asking the questions about what are some of the concerns that the farmers are having and how do we address those? How do we become more efficient at addressing those issues? And so we do that. And you as a farmer, you're a business person that is involved in farming. And so you need to find partners that will allow you to ask questions about the product. I tell everybody that we can cuss and discuss the products that we've developed here all day long. Stay away from my wife and kids, and we can have all kind of discussions about things I've done wrong, right? But whenever you start looking for companies to work with, find them that you can talk to, that you can ask questions, and that you can help them innovate. Because including in the CRW, and we're doing some stuff on the some other bio inclusions for insect control, and we're doing some stuff on fungus control, and those types of things are continuing to develop. And as we work through that, the feedback we get back from farmers about this is working or this isn't working, what can you do? That's been a big benefit for us as well.
All right. With that, Brian, do you have any last thoughts you'd like to give our membership before we wrap up today?
The last thing I want to say before we leave is that this is going to be another great year because we get to be involved in ag, and every one of these years is a challenge for us. It's just every one of them is different, and so as you look into that, remember that you need to be the most efficient you can be with the dollars that you spend and where you spend them and how you spend them. And so whether you choose to work with anything new on your farm or not, it's completely up to you. It's your operation, and so don't let somebody force you into doing something that you're not comfortable with. Ask questions as you move through that. That's what we spend a lot of time here. We spend a lot of time questioning new products that are out there, new things that we're looking at. We kick stuff out of our catalog all the time because it doesn't work or it's not consistent. And so that's just what we want to focus on is just be challenging what's happening on your farm, look for ways to become more efficient, and then find companies you can partner with to do that. And we hope that obviously Low Tech and Newfields Ag is one of those companies. So we appreciate that. Thank you for the time.
All right. And thank you everyone for joining us today on the Illinois Soybean Grower webinar. If you enjoyed this content, again, I would encourage you to become a grower member if you're not already one, using the link provided on the screen now. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you everyone for participating.